I know I'm ridiculously overdue with this video, so I do apologise, but let's talk about the recently released Prometheus trailer. Now, for many of you that watch my channel, you'll know that I've done a bunch of videos in the sort of run up to the release of the first trailer for Prometheus. For those that don't know, Prometheus is a film that's been released in 2012. It's helmed by Ridley Scott, and the buzz around it was that it was going to be a prequel to the 1979 classic science fiction horror film Alien, which Ridley Scott himself had directed. Now, there's an issue, and there's been this debate about how much of a prequel it is actually going to be. At one point, people thought that it actually had started out as an Alien script and then just they made it its own standalone story. But then more and more details came out about it, and it seemed as if the producers and the people that were marketing the film were sort of playing with the audience a little bit, allowing us to know that it's partly connected to the original film Alien, but how much, so we really don't know. Some of that has now finally been answered with this trailer. I'll link to the trailer down below. If you haven't watched it, I would recommend going and watching it before you continue with listening to me drone on and boring you to death. The Prometheus trailer, like, right off the bat, is certainly connected to the film Alien. Whether it's an Alien film is something very different, but certainly it takes place in the same universe as the Alien franchise, and we realise that when we get to see the spaceship from the original film Alien, the original Alien ship, which is lying on LV-426, and it seems to have been lying there for eons. But interestingly, in the trailer, we actually get to see it as if it's fallen from the sky and crash landing, and some of the human characters will try to run away from it. We also get to see the space jockey, which was in the original film. It's what seems to be a sort of the skeletal remains of another different unknown alien creature that's had its chest ripped open from having a chest buster inside it, and it seems to be either hardwired or fossilized into the chair that it's sitting on, and it's looking at this sort of telescopic device which goes for, you know, probably 100 feet into the air. And this creature is massive, it's really large, and in fact, when they shot Alien originally, they had to use child actors in spacesuits to create, and you know, even though it was a large set, to make it look even bigger. When they shot the actors and actresses like in the spacesuits around the space jockey. So we certainly know those two elements, which are in the 1979 film, are there. Whether it's the same ship though is another matter. It may be that it's a similar model and the similar alien race, which the space jockey was in the 1979 film, and that's what they found. So maybe another planet altogether, because the planet doesn't look like LV-426 at all, so that really makes me think that it is on a different world, but we'll see. I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see about that. The other elements of the trailer, which certainly from a marketing perspective, they're certainly pushing the Alien angle, is the sound of the Alien from the original Alien trailers has been used. It was used in the trailers for the trailers in the lead up to this as well, although it seems to diminish as the trailer goes on, so it's almost as if, here we go, we're starting within the world that you know, and we're taking you somewhere very, very different. Also, the sort of typeface for the title as it comes in, it appears strand by strand, just like in the beginning of Alien, so these things connect it to the original film. Also, I think it's also been cleverly edited. There are elements in it which I think are probably not what they appear, but they've certainly been edited in a way to look as if, oh, this might be something to do with Alien. First of all, there's someone in a spacesuit, and it's almost as if acid gets sprayed up in the spacesuit, in the space helmet, and it's very reminiscent, excuse me, of the John Hurt scene as Kane in the 1979 film. But I don't think that's quite what it seems like. It looks almost as if maybe it's inside the suit, something inside the suit, or yeah, I don't think it's quite what you think it is. The second thing is that we see a woman screaming for help, and it's almost as if she's maybe lying on an operating table or something like that. Again, this ties into in the original Alien film we had sort of a body horror element, and I think that's what stayed with people. In fact, Walter Hill and David Giler, who were the producers of the original film, when they read the script by Dan O'Bannon and Ron Shusett, they didn't like it. They didn't like the script really, so they say. But apparently they didn't like it, but they thought that the whole idea of the chest buster was incredible, and that what they would do is they would rebuild the script around that scene. So we had this incredibly shocking for the time scene in the original film, the chest buster, and explored all those sort of ideas of male rape and fear of pregnancy, things like that, turning a lot of things which turning something like pregnancy, which is supposed to be a positive thing, into something quite negative, and which was really interesting in the original film. But we certainly had that body horror element, and I don't know if that little snippet that we saw of the woman lying on the operating table was someone in a sort of chestbuster gestation scene or not, but certainly it made you think there's going to be some sort of body horror element. I wouldn't be surprised if they've done something quite different from the chestbuster, and they've tried to throw something new in there. Lastly, with regards to connecting it to the original film, the opening of the trailer, you hear a woman's voice almost giving a transmission, and it's very reminiscent of Sigourney Weaver's transmission for the Nostromo at the end of Alien. It's also played at the end of Alien 3. So those are the things I think which connect it to the original film. So it's certainly set within the universe. Will it be an alien film? Will the alien creature turn up? My guess is that either this is the first part of a new franchise, so the alien maybe won't turn up in this film, but because there have been a few rumours, and Ridley Scott even talked about making a sequel, so maybe that this is the start of something else taken in a completely different way. They won't want to put the alien in it, or maybe it'll appear later on, or the alien creature will turn up perhaps I think I can't remember the quote exactly, but I think there was a quote which was like, in the last 8 minutes of the film fans will recognise elements of Alien, so perhaps the alien creature only turns up at the end. I'm not exactly sure. Perhaps we'll even end with a shot of the Nostromo landing on the planet. Maybe they'll try and turn it that way so it's sort of cyclical. I'm not sure, but I get the feeling definitely this isn't an out and out alien film. In fact, the whole idea is, I think it's going in the more sort of 2001 A Space Odyssey route, where we're going to be talking about the origin of mankind, and I mean the trailer overtly says that, but the whole idea of the term Prometheus that's been used anyway, so that's, obviously inextricably linked to ideas of creation and or technology. So I think we're going to get like sort of genetic manipulation, stuff like that. We do get to see a couple of scenes in the trailer where it's as if the scientists are experimenting or something, or pulling like vials of something out of a machine. Also, there's one scene where you see a guy jumping off of what seems to be the top of the roof of a spaceship or something like that. And although you can't entirely clearly see it, it almost looks like he's not quite human. So again, genetic manipulation. And there was that whole quote where they kept saying, "Oh, keen fans will recognise the DNA of Alien in this film," and I think that's a little bit of a they're playing with the audience a little bit there. So anyway, that's what I think of the trailer. I think it was a well-made trailer. Sometimes some trailers just don't really live up to the film. Sometimes the trailer's better than the film. We'll just have to wait and see. One last thing I would like to say, Ridley Scott, for me, although a wonderful director, is a bit hit and miss at times, and I've watched films of his that I've just thought, he's one of the most visually talented directors of all time, and some of his films, just don't live up to that standard. I'm so glad, because from watching this, I think he's been really careful. I think he's known got to get this done properly. And I'm not saying he doesn't do that with his other films, but he said himself that some of his other films have, and I'm really glad to see that at least there seems to be a really convincing visual style. I just hope that there are 2D screenings, because I will not want to watch this in 3D, because 3D is bullshit. Anyway, what do you guys think about the trailer? What do you guys think about the film in general? And please check out my last video, which is a Q&A video, sort of question and answer thing to celebrate reaching 300 subscribers. If any of you guys have any questions, and it could be about Prometheus or any other film, please go to that video and drop me a line. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch up with all of you soon. Bye bye.